G'day, everybody. I want to talk about my theory about what's happening to my candle glasses when I recycle them and what you can do about it to stop it from happening. But I guess it'll be a little more expensive. But it's best to be a little more expensive or twice as expensive, if it has to be, and last, then eventually over a few months or whatever, they fade away if you use them a lot, right? Now, when it comes to these glasses, right, they're cheap. Right? When you think cheap, right, and you're only thinking cheap and profit, you will make a glass, such a glass. I see why. Right? I don't want to get into too much of that detail, man. When I have this video short. But if you want things cheap, you can make such a glass. I'll just leave it like that, right? But if you want things right, you would make a thicker glass when it comes to candle glass, right? And why I say it needs to be thicker, as candles get quite hot, it heats up, right? And the thin glass, because it's thin, it can heat up easier too and get to the same temperature a lot, right? And what I'm thinking when it comes to these glasses, because I've been recycling, we brought a whole heap, and then I thought we can use them to recycle, so we don't have to buy anymore, right? But here's the problem: because they're cheap, and we haven't gone dearer, a bit more dearer, so I put it on me as well, and haven't brought the right glasses, and I was hoping these would be able to sustain, but have learnt now by buying them. Right? I study and learn. And if I had more money, right, and go other ways, I would, to save the circling process, right, by getting a thicker glass, because a thicker glass can take the heat better. It takes longer to heat it up, all the molecules in the glass there, right? And when they heat up a lot and cool down, heat up a lot, they'll tell you about that in steel and other things that docos I've watched, right? And it weakens the structure of the glass. And so it brittles it, right? It gets brittle and brittle every time I recycle this glass. Every time I fill it up, it gets hot. I fill it up. Maybe if I fill it up with really cool wax only, but occasionally I do fill this up with hot wax, right? And that could be my problem as well, that I fill it up occasionally and a lot with very hot wax. I get the wax a little too hot, I don't temperature check it, and then I slam it in. It doesn't bother me too much sometimes, and then I wait for it to cool and refill it, right? And that is more likely why it's fracturing, right? Just talking about it now, right? It helps me explain the issue. But if I had a thicker glass, it could take the heat better and more likely less to fracture later on than this thinner glass, right? So the problem is, if so, I can go full lazy. So if you had money and you want to be quick, right, and be more lazy and not worry about things, you go a thicker glass, right? And if you want to recycle, but you want to go cheap, you have to figure out the product, and then you have to work with the product, I guess. Otherwise, an inferior product just won't last. So if you get something cheap, you better be gentle with it. Be careful what you're doing. Right? What what metals does it have on it? You know, just washing a cheap whippersnipper I got once, right, from China, right? Some name, I can't even remember what it is. I've got a bit of it at the back somewhere. But I just pressure washed it like I pressure wash a lot of whippersnippers that I had, right? The good brown ones, you can do that, and they make it with better materials, metal that don't rust and stuff like that. But when you get a cheaper one, you can't really do it. It's actually a bad thing to wash it. I've noticed you're better off letting it just get dirty over time. You'll have to let them dirty when it comes to cheap stuff than to wash it so much. Or be careful what you wash when you wash it, because the first thing that went on the whippersnipper was the cord trigger. It had a wire that ran up it, and it could have been an aluminium one or something. They should have done that, but they didn't. They picked metal that can rust, and within the trigger and the plastic and the wire, and getting wet and being wet within the plastic too, because it wasn't sealed around the trigger part. It was like a big plastic handle. It rusted real quick in there within 6 months to a year, and it broke. That was the first thing to go. What this? It's a rusted wire, because I like to clean my whippersnipper, right? And I used to pressure wash it when I did it every time I used it, and that wasn't good. And there was other things started rusting on it too. And then the plastic, they use dodgy ass rubber all the time, which annoys me. And they should tell you about this rubber will not last long as if you use cheap material, huh? And the rubber, just if you leave it out one summer, like in the sun outside here, if it was left out one summer, when it comes to a lot of these cheap products with the rubber, which is just a few months, right? the next time you go to use it, it's screwed. That rubber will be all brittle and fall apart. Where it comes to good proper rubber, you could leave it out there for 5 years or 10 years, right, before you had an issue. Anyway, I thought I'd chuck that out there about cheap products and how to handle them. And we all learn in the end. Check out my heel. I recovered it up with some soil last night. And there's a little bit more grass than usual, but I thought I'll go extra thick at the moment. Let it sit and dry a bit. And then I'll go out there with a hose and hopefully extra little grassy bits will pop out a little bit more. So it's not very covered, but it's more thicker now. And the grass will grow back. That's underneath pop out pretty quickly anyway. And it will grow back pretty quick. But it looks a little bit less grassier because I neatened it back up so the babies can just walk up now without falling into a grass dip hole trench that we're getting created out there. So I'll chuck that out for you too. Have a good one and bye bye.